Just wanted to say a quick thank you to all the members of the Kinetic Rugby League channel. Thank you very much for your support. It is greatly appreciated. If you'd like to support the channel, support the work that I do, you can do for as little as £1 a month by clicking the join button below this video. But thank you again to all the members. Let's get on with the video. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kinetic Rugby League channel. Hope everyone's doing well, because I'm not. It's hot as balls in here. I'm melting. Okay? I'm physically melting. It cannot go on like this.
It can.
But I've left a recap of last round's predictions up on the screen for you guys to check out. I'll take a 4 out of 6. It's at least positive, but hoping for more 5s and at least another 6 before the end of the season would look like at least I kind of know what I'm talking about sometimes. Just sometimes. But anyway, let's get on with the first game of this week. Kicking things off, we have the Castleford Tigers taking on the Huddersfield Giants. Both sides have only won 1 in their last 5 games. Now, both have also faced some tough opponents recently, and they've done alright. Given what they were like at the start of the season, they've faced some tough opponents, and they've looked alright. Castleford have made improvements to their forward pack, and I think the inclusion of Tom Mamone has been huge for them. But in recent weeks, I think the forwards have done a pretty good job for Cass. I also think that Dejan Assey's run game has been a huge factor as well. Also, another thing that Cass have been doing recently, they've been spreading the ball early, deep inside their own half. Regulars will know, I appreciate it when teams do that. I want my team to do it a little bit more. But when Castleford, they actually have a go, they try and spread the ball, they do find a fair few line breaks. They are capable of doing that. So that's a possible factor in this game. Some long-range tries. One of the senior brothers, maybe. Well, we'll see. We will see. Now, Huddersfield, they've looked strong up front pretty much all season. I think their forward pack has looked pretty good. They've had to rotate it a couple times, but it's looked pretty strong most weeks anyway. And now, obviously, again, a lot of regulars back in there. They did have Clune for a little bit. He's then, he's now unavailable, of course. But Matt Frawley's been brought in. He's now been in a couple weeks. Hopefully at this point he's a little bit more settled. They're a little bit more comfortable with the combinations. And they can at least have some kind of clarity in the spine for a good few weeks, if not months. I actually don't know how long Adam Clune is unavailable for. But hopefully with Frawley in there another week, they can build those combinations. I think with Huddersfield having a bit more consistency in their lineup, they have been performing much better, looking a lot more dangerous in possession as well. I think that's freed up Tuil Olahea for one. I think when you've got a spine that can take on a bit more responsibility, Tuil Olahea's focus is just the run game, the short-range kicking game, playing off the cuff a little bit because someone else will take on the regular number 7 responsibilities. I think that really frees him up. And it gives players like George Flanagan a lot of confidence that he can kind of just play what he sees, play off what he feels like. But there's some maturer, more experienced guys in the 6 and 7 role that can just do the basics, get the basics down. Then George Flanagan can do what he does best, and that's step. Left and right, making players miss, making up meters, and making plays happen from nowhere. But in this game, I think the battle up front is going to be decent with Cass because, as I say, they've been performing a lot better. I think they'll have some decent goes at long-range tries because they have been doing well in that area. I think inside the red zone, I think Cass have improved a little bit in there. It's not too often they actually make it into the red zone, but I think in recent weeks when they've been there, they've looked more dangerous. Maybe a little bit too much of an effort to try and crash over, but they do look like they're connecting a little bit better. But compare that to a Huddersfield Giants team that I think has been tested a little bit more and has faced the tests slightly better, I think. And there's a little bit more cohesion, and performances are starting to step up for Huddersfield. The loss to Catalans was a little bit worrying for the prediction, but I'm hoping for a decent back and forth game here. So I'm going to go with Castleford Tigers 18, Huddersfield Giants 24. Next up, we have the Leigh Leopards taking on the Wigan Warriors. So first of all, in terms of form, Leigh have won 3 in their last 5 Super League games. Wigan have won 4 in their last 5 Super League games. Leigh's attack has been looking pretty good the last few weeks. Like, they've been decent for most of the season, but I think over the last few weeks, I think they had some kind of troubles in there. It wasn't as cohesive. There was a bit of a disconnect when O'Brien was out for a couple of weeks and it was Lamb and McNamara in the 6 and 7 role. But I think the last few games of that partnership before O'Brien came back in starting to look a little bit cleaner, and then O'Brien comes back in, and I think that certainly helped. So you look at Leigh's attack improving compared to a Wigan defence that has looked a little bit more vulnerable recently, and I mentioned in my power rankings video, they're starting to concede tries on the goal line towards the sticks, which is irregular for the Wigan Warriors. So you take a Leigh attack that's improving versus a Wigan defence that looks like it might be on a slight decline at the moment. It could be a good matchup this week. Now on the flip side, I think Leigh's defence could use a little bit of work versus a Wigan attack that has maybe dropped off slightly as well, but we've seen, in some occasions the last few weeks especially, that they can show up when it matters. You can't forget Wigan is still a great side with great players, even if they are having a slight dip compared to their standards. I think having O'Brien back in has really helped Leigh massively. Building that connection again with Lamb helps to unlock him a little bit more, helps to certainly unlock Armstrong, who I don't think has hit the ground running as quickly as I would have liked him to have done, because I was really excited when he joined Super League. But we've seen some sparks in the last couple of weeks where Armstrong is getting more opportunities. He's creating more by himself as well. He's looking more comfortable, looking more confident. So Armstrong could play a huge role this week. I think Leigh might be able to smell a bit of blood in the water in this one. Wigan feel a little bit hurt. I think people are looking at them now like they're not the Titans that they were a couple of weeks or months ago, that they're vulnerable. I think Leigh will be able to sense that. They're about to go on a tough run of games though. They've actually just started with Leeds last week. It's about to be Wigan, then Hull KR, and then I can't remember who it was after that, but it's a tough run coming up. It's a really tough run. I think they'll want to set the tone here. This is their first home game in 4 weeks. They've been on 4 away games in a row. And I think with the improvements they're making in attack compared to the slump that Wigan's going through defensively, I think Leigh might be able to just nab this one. I think that home atmosphere, I think, is going to be insane. And that might drive them forwards. Still not overly confident about their defence. I think Wigan could find it fairly easy to put up points, but I think there's something about Leigh's attack. It's got a decent bit of pace and skill to it that can break down a Wigan defence that's looking a bit off at points. So I'm going to go with Leigh Leopards 20, Wigan Warriors 16. Next up, we have the Salford Red Devils taking on the Warrington Wolves. Starting with form, Salford have won 0 in their last 5. Warrington have better form. Still not great though, they've only won 2 in their last 5. I am expecting Warrington to actually look okay in the forward pack this week. I think it could be a good chance to give players like Wood, Thomas, or even McKinney a bit of game time this week. That would be good to see. I'd like to see those younger lads getting some actual minutes. And I think, given the size of players like Wood and Thomas on return from his long-term injury, and I'm not seeing McKinney yet, I want to see them get some game time, get some opportunities. So we'll see about that one. I think a positive for Warrington and the spine this week is there's a great chance that it's going to be the easiest day out for Warrington so far this season. It's the first time that Warrington have played Salford. And with all the chopping and changing that Warrington's had to do, with all the injuries, I think having Sneed, Williams and Duffy back for another week together to kind of show off what they're capable of doing. I think just having a free-flowing performance might be good. 1, for confidence, and 2, just to kind of get an in-game feel, how it should actually feel in a game. So I think I am kind of writing off Salford here, but to move on to Salford and the positives that we could look at for them, they've started games with a lot of energy. I mentioned in the power rankings video as well that the first 20 minutes they can frustrate some teams. Sometimes they can extend that up to 30, maybe 40 at a push. And the fact that Warrington have had some slow starts, or quite a few slow starts in Super League, could mean that maybe the first quarter, the first half of the game, is a bit frustrating for Warrington. Because, yes, I think they played well against Hull. They played much better against Hull than they have been recently. But it's still kind of in Wire's DNA at the moment still, I think, to struggle in games And a regular thing so far for Warrington is that they show up for the big occasions. Typically this year is that they'll play up to the occasion, but when it's a team that they feel they should be beating or competing against easily, they just don't really show up for it. The energy's not there. So I think Salford at the start of the game could punish Warrington a little bit and put them on the back foot and force them to have to maybe overplay a little bit to do some catching up. I think there's a possibility in there, but with Duffy back in the side, Warrington should be okay. I think with some of the poor defence that Warrington have shown this season, Salford could nab a couple points, possibly 2 tries in this game. I think they could get 2 tries, but I'm expecting Warrington with Duffy back in there. I think the forwards should be able to dominate through the middle. I think Sam Stone will feel more and more settled as the weeks go on. Fitzgibbon getting a decent run of games recently as well also helps, and more stability in the back line will certainly help Warrington going forwards. So they should be fairly comfortable. So I'm going to go with Salford Red Devils 10, Warrington Wolves 42. Next up, we have Hull FC taking on St Helens. Start with form. Hull have won 3 in their last 5 Super League games. Saints have won 4 in their last 5 Super League games. I think the biggest difference between these sides is stability in recent weeks, which for me leans towards St Helens. Not just in terms of the lineup, which is actually a huge positive for Saints, because they were chopping and changing themselves. They weren't quite sure what they wanted to do, especially in the spine, and they've had a few injuries as well to deal with. But there's been a bit more stability in what they want to go with. But also in terms of performance, yes, 2 of the wins that they've had in recent weeks were against Salford, but I think their performances, those games against Salford, they were up to the expected standard. The performance against Leeds was extremely professional. That's a word I keep using for that game. I think they were professional in that game. And in recent weeks, I think we've seen Saints start to look more and more comfortable. So they've had stability in the lineup and stability in performances. Hull FC, I think their best chance will come through the middle. Whilst they're still missing Will Price, Jordan Rapiner has plenty of experience so far this year at number 1. But it's not the same without Will Price. I think he really gets that offense ticking. Caesar can have his moments. Kuss can certainly have his moments. He's got he's pretty quick off the mark. He's got a decent step on him as well. So they can create some opportunities, but I think without Will Price, they'll struggle a bit, possibly for a couple of weeks to really make up for that deficit. So I think it's going to have to be through the middle. You need SASA, Aiden, SA, Ashworth, whoever's available, to be getting those post-contact meters, getting offloads constantly, wearing down this Saints forward pack that has good players to rotate as well in the forwards. If you can get those offloads, win the battle up front, you can start pinning Saints back, building pressure, and then eventually put some points on the board. But I do like the rotation options that Saints have available. And I think they've had more clarity in the kicking game. The kick chase has been good. Defensively, I think in the middle third, Saints have been pretty good. They've not allowed too many line breaks from what I recall in the last few months. So let's say 6 weeks to 8 weeks. They're looking a little bit cleaner defensively as well. So, for me, all that together, plus Hull FC haven't actually won a game at home this season. Yes, Saints have beaten Salford twice in recent weeks, but I think the Leeds game is evidence that they are a more serious team, and they will continue to build on that performance and the consistency in their performances against Salford. I think we'll see Saints looking like a more serious team. Not the complete package, but getting better. So I'm going to go with Hull FC 12, St Helens 26. Next up, we have Wakefield Trinity taking on the Catalans Dragons, starting with form. Wakefield have only won 2 in their last 5 Super League games. Catalans have only won 1, though. Wakefield have played, wait for it, Leeds, Leigh, Wigan, and Hull KR in their last 4 games. It cannot get tougher than that. It cannot get tougher than that. Catalans have improved in the last 2 games. I think I've kind of been waiting for that. That's the thing with the predictions over the last few weeks with Catalans. When they were losing 3 games back to back to back and scoring no points, the prediction after that to back Hull KR by a massive win, there was evidence for it. But The result against Huddersfield was unexpected. I understood that they could win the game, but not like that. But that's kind of what I've been waiting for. You look at the Catalan squad on paper, we've talked about this all year, is that the squad on paper is ridiculously good. So even though they're not getting the results, I'm kind of waiting for it to just click at some point. Like, there was a period where they had an uptick, but I'm just kind of waiting for it to work out. Surely with the quality they've got, the experience, the leadership, surely at some point, and it did against Huddersfield, and it, in parts against Leigh as well, it showed up. But Wakefield, they've looked solid through a very tough run of games. I really like how much pace they're playing with, and I think they're actually executing better with the ball. Something I remember talking about a few months ago. I can't remember what the matchup was, but they do like to chuck the ball around. They'll have a go. They're not afraid to move the ball around in any part of the field, but that does come with mistakes. We saw more of those mistakes earlier in the season, but in recent weeks, there's less of those mistakes, I think. They still happen. I think if they can clean those up, then fantastic for them. But I think they're executing a lot better, especially when they go down that left edge with Jowett out the back. It's just they're creating more opportunities. They're looking more dangerous. They can still go to the right-hand side as well, don't get me wrong. But I think when they're inside the middle third, you'll see them start shifting the ball. You'll see Jowett out the back. He gets the ball. And he's just then making the right decisions. They're finding line breaks. They're finding meters at the very least. And really putting teams on the back foot. I think Wakefield's doing a great job with the carry through the middle as well. They're doing a brilliant job up front. So, even though Catalans do have a big forward pack, I think Wakefield can absolutely compete and possibly win the battle up front. I will give Catalans some credit and assume that they won't be getting nilled because of, evidence in the last 2 weeks. They've put up some, solid points on average between the two games. They're actually scoring. They are improving. But even with Tompkins back in there, I think he's going to be great for on-field leadership and just overall improvements throughout the squad. He will be a difference maker over the next few weeks, and it's huge having him back. But Wakefield, they move the ball around better. They are the better attacking side at the moment, the better defensive side at the moment. They're looking really strong up front. They're just making the right decisions. There's a real positive feeling around Wakefield at the moment. And they're at home. They'll have the atmosphere. The crowd will be well up for this one, as they always are. And I think Wakefield should be fine in this one. I think there's elements where Catalans could look better. And maybe in a moment here and there, maybe early on could keep it close. But I think over 80 minutes, Wakefield, I think they should be okay with this one. So for a prediction, I'm going to go with Wakefield Trinity 28, Catalans Dragons 12. Finally for this round, we have what could be the game of the round. The Hull Kingston Rovers taking on the Leeds Rhinos. Starting with form, Hull Kingston Rovers have won 5 in their last 5 Super League games. Leeds have won 4 in their last 5 Super League games. Hull KR have been outstanding this year. They've been absolutely brilliant. It's hard to see where they might slip up. But this week, it's going to be a tough challenge. I can see both teams kind of treating it a little bit like a grand final. Both teams just like to go back and forth. Hull KR will go short side left to Mikey Lewis and they'll kick towards the back corners. I think Leeds aren't afraid to either go through the middle or attack either corner. So Hull KR, they like that back left. Leeds, I think they'll go for any of the 3 options towards the back. And I think they'll try and get into that grind. I think maybe they'll match up quite well up front because I do think Leeds are the best match for Hull Kingston Rovers in the forward pack, especially based on performance, the carries, the offloads, everything combined. I think Leeds and Hull KR are a fantastic match up front. So I think there's a good chance maybe the first 10 minutes you're going to see a lot of back and forth, very even battle. And then I think it's going to be Leeds that pulls the trigger first. If Hull Kingston Rovers end up inside the red zone, I think I trust them more to be able to put up those points if they're in a great attacking position. I trust Leeds as well. I think they've been a solid attacking side, but I trust Hull KR more to take those opportunities. But if they're stuck inside the middle third, I think between the two sides, who's going to have a go first? I think it's Leeds. I think they've shown more willingness to chuck the ball around inside the middle third. they'll get the ball to Hanley, they'll get the ball to Newman, they'll try and make sure that the middles are disrupted a little bit, they'll cut back inside, they'll chuck the ball around, they'll get offloads. They aren't afraid to do that. Whereas Hull Kingston Rovers, I think, it's different in the style. Leeds are willing to do that because they back themselves and want to have a go. Not to say that Hull KR don't back themselves, they just have a method, they have a plan, and they're sticking with that plan. If they want to have a go, they'll do it every so often, but they've got a game plan and they'll stick to it. That's the professionalism of the Robins. So it's two slightly different styles offensively that will be interesting to see which one kind of works out in that game. But the back and forth is going to be incredible. I don't know who's going to win that battle, but as I said, when there are opportunities, and there will be opportunities, as long as, first of all, Leeds aren't as bad as they were against Saints, and where they kept dropping the ball, they've already shown this season that they can compete with the Robins, at least for a good hour, and then it kind of just slowly dropped off. If I remember correctly, there was some refereeing decisions in that game. I'm not entirely sure if I'm remembering that one correctly, but Leeds can compete with Hull KR. I just think in those moments where you have to take your chances, KR have shown that they are the stronger side in doing that. Leeds can be great defensively, but the Robins, they just find ways to break teams down. So this could be a really close game. If it's a 1-point game, I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. But I'm going to back the team that has been clearly the stronger side. Not that the other hasn't been decent either, but one's been clearly stronger than the other over so many weeks. And I'm going to back the home team with that crowd getting involved with the atmosphere. So I'm going to go with Hull Kingston Rovers 24, Leeds Rhinos 22. So there you have my predictions for this round. If you guys have your own, please do let me know in the comment section down below. As always though, if you enjoyed, feel free to leave a like. It does help to get the video out there to more people. Subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with more Kinetic Rugby League content. There's a Discord invite link in the description if you want to join the Kinetic Rugby League Discord. And if you'd like to become a member, you can do by clicking the join button below this video and joining for as little as £1 per month. But folks, that is going to be it. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.